you. Um, this person asks, is it probable to become a channel for you? And if so, what is the most effective way to make that happen?
The answer is no. You will not become a channel for us personally, though you may tap into the Sasani collective vibration, and there may be a counterpart, Sasani being, who would be more than willing to channel through you, but it will not be personally me. I am coming through this channel only. But by allowing yourself to explore different states of being in channeling, in the gamma state in the brain between 40 and 100 cycles per second, you can attract whatever you need information-wise or experience-wise, but one of the best ways to practice the idea of vocal channeling, if that's what you're referring to, is to surround yourself with a few people that are asking questions that they really, really need the answer to, because in a sense, they act like ground, like electricity going to a grounding mechanism. They, by asking those questions and needing to hear the answer, pull the information through you. So you can kind of get out of the way and not have to really pay attention to what's going on. Because if the information is just coming to you, you don't really have to go into a full channeling state. You can be more conscious of what's going on, receive the information, and simply deliver it on your own to people in your own words if you wish to. But to go into a full channeling state, it's always best to have people asking questions to pull the information through you. And also at the same time, you have to absolutely get out of the way in terms of your negative ego structure. You cannot care what you look like, how silly you sound, or whether you get any information for them at all. You have to just trust the way it unfolds and just keep moving forward. Remember, going into the channeling state is also for you as the channel to clear yourself out of all the things that you may need to let go of. So the process is not just for the information for the people asking questions, it's also for you to go through an experience that helps you evolve as well.
And I believe this person also asked how to interpret it when one notices slight discrepancies or inconsistencies in a channel where it's a source that they otherwise entirely resonate with. What is the best way to sort through that without being thrown off of your faith or belief in or trust in a set of teachings?
All right. Well, first of all, you never have to swallow anything whole. You can decide what works for you and what doesn't in any discipline, including ours. The idea, of course, is that channeling in your reality is not, let's just say, a perfect mechanism. There may be misinterpretations, misunderstandings. There may be a lack of using your language in a way that you would understand it because you have different meanings and interpretations for things. The idea is that sometimes it can simply slip. The idea being that, again, it's not always focused in a perfect way. So there may be what you would call some mistakes here and there that would cause certain discrepancies. At the same time, always look into your own belief systems to make sure you're not coloring the information or misinterpreting the information in a way that you prefer it to be, rather than being open to what is actually being said to you. So you have to really take it on a moment-to-moment basis and just see if something doesn't hit you right. Examine yourself to make sure you're not the one making it go into a different state than you would prefer. At the same time, realize there will always be errors here and there that will creep in from time to time, because no channel is perfect. No channeling medium in that sense, energetically, will always maintain a perfect focus for a variety of reasons. And there are certain things that simply get misinterpreted and or interpreted in different ways than maybe the normal understanding of your world. There may be things that don't make sense now that will make sense later. There are a variety of reasons why things may seem to be a little off kilter from time to time.
Thank you. How might experiences of sexuality continue to shift and evolve as our consciousness evolves?
Well, in many different ways, perhaps, all the way up to what we experience now and beyond, where our activity sexually is no longer exactly physical, but more energetic, in the creation of energy bubbles that interlink, overlap, and create a third life within the overlap. So it's no longer the physical act that it used to be for us, that it still is for you. But again, as you open yourself up in a fourth density, higher vibrational way, you'll be clearer about the reasons for the idea of expressing sexuality, and they will all be more in your expression aligned with the positive vibration and less aligned with the negative vibration. You will know perfectly the reasons why you may experience the idea of sexuality, and they will all enhance your ability to evolve forward in the fourth density reality that you're creating.
In the last transmission, you said that our individual processes of transforming darkness and limitation within ourselves is getting us ready for a larger collective project doing the same thing.
Yes.
Can you talk more about that and what is coming up in that regard, and what will transforming darkness and limitation look like on a larger collective scale?
No, it's premature. We will address it when it is the time to address it.
Okay. How did you come up with the discovery of shifting from parallel reality to parallel reality at Planck time frequency, each reality being totally distinct from the others? Are there any indications that this is our ordinary real life experience and you were able to figure that out without labs or complicated computations?
Yes, as we evolved and as we followed our version, our understanding of what we've shared with you called the formula, you raise your frequency in specific ways. And those specific ways extend your senses in specific ways. And those specific ways allow you to actually start to view the structure of existence and how it's actually functioning on different levels. So we simply suddenly became aware of parallel realities in a very tangible way and started becoming more aware as we evolved in the momentum that we created for ourselves of all of the different specific increments that go into allowing physical reality to work the way it does. So it was really a matter of opening up our senses to the point where it became obvious to see things and the structure of existence in a very particular way. And then things simply became as obvious to us as certain things are obvious to you, such as, again, by analogy, if you're holding a red rose and I ask you what the color is, you would simply say red. That's not a philosophy. It's not an opinion. You simply have the ability to see the red color. So the idea is we are giving you the experiences of our observations of what has become obvious to us by the expansion and increase in our sensory abilities to perceive through the barriers and the frequencies that create other realities.
So with the idea that there are many parallel realities and many versions of Earth existing simultaneously,
yes,
how then does each version of me relate to each other? Does this mean my soul copies into many souls?
Not copies, but each version has its own soul, its own higher mind. Again, remember, you're actually shifting to a completely different reality that has its own beingness. It has its own soul, its own purposes. And therefore, it's not that you're copying the soul, but it is dynamically interacting with every version simultaneously, whether you're aware of it or not. So all of the personalities are dynamically and energetically interacting like some gigantic internet. The idea being then that you're simply shifting focus along that interconnected web to experience the idea that you're changing billions of times a second into different versions of Earth or other parallel realities.
Okay, and this person says, I get confused about who is inside of me. I see times when I meld with the ego self, and that leaves me feeling disempowered and fearful. And I see times that I meld with the higher self, which leaves me in a state of empowerment. Who is it? Who is the I doing all this melding?
It is your core identity as an individual reflection of all that is. That never changes. You can experience a number of perspectives, but you're always going to experience it as you. So even when you're a spirit, even if you go to the level of the oversoul, even if you go to the level of all that is itself, you experience that as those things from your point of view. You never lose that particular perspective because you're one of the reflections, one of the ways that all that is has of experiencing itself. So the experiences you're having of disempowerment or empowerment is all happening because you are making choices to buy into certain ideas that then create those experiences. But no matter what the experience, it will always be being experienced by your perspective, which is you as a reflection of all that is, a unique one.
You mentioned that the Sasani are your version of the Wraith, the 5th level of mastery, and that's from the Willa information.
Yes, because we exhibit traits of both physical and spiritual beings. So we are close to the idea that is being expressed in that work that is represented by the stage of the mastery called the Wraith. Similar, not identical, but similar.
So what levels of mastery do the Yael and Shalana or Shayael embody, and are any of them at the Wraith level?
Mostly no, because they have to interact with you in a more physical way. So it's not necessarily their purpose to go into those levels until later on in their evolutionary path. They maintain a certain kind of physicality that will be more vibrationally compatible with humans on Earth when certain changes happen, of course, so that they can present the hybrid children to you and help them learn to live among you. So it's not necessary for everyone to go through those different levels of mastery in any way, shape, or form for them to serve the primary purpose that they've chosen to express.
What do hybrids and grays eat, and will their food practices be brought to Earth? Are there foods that they can eat that humans can't, and vice versa? And if your craft is a living being, are there foods that it enjoys consuming, and what sorts of things does it like?
Well, I'm going to joke with you a little bit and say that it enjoys a light meal. Because really all it's doing is absorbing light, electromagnetic energy in a variety of forms. We no longer eat. We used to, but we've evolved beyond that. However, the grays evolved to a point where they ingested mostly liquids. The Shalanaya, the children that will come to live among you, will retain the ability to eat physically, but it'll mostly be similar to either vegetarian or vegan diets, as you understand it, and would probably be even simpler in terms of the choices of food that they choose even out of those diets.
It's designed with a gut system that specializes in consuming mostly fruits and vegetables rather than meat or even wood. And how come there's so much confusion about the appropriate diet that leads to a lean, muscular body when all these diets seemingly contradict what the human gut was designed for?
Your human digestive system was initially only fed with things from nature in that way. The idea, of course, is that it can require some meat protein sustenance now and then based on certain changes that have happened within you on the course of your evolution, but primarily your digestive system is designed for the idea of non-meat. So the idea of a vegetarian or a vegan diet is actually in some senses more natural to you, and perhaps now and then with a small amount of meat protein based on the differences that exist individually among you, depending upon where you're at in your evolutionary path. As long as everything is done relatively naturally, you will not necessarily feel the urge to eat certain things anymore. And therefore, you can regulate yourself that way by maintaining, again, a different kind of light diet, even while imbibing in certain substances. So the idea is to pay attention to your biological mechanism, to see what it is that actually allows you to feel, as you say, lean. And the idea is, therefore, to stabilize yourself in the ingestion of those things that ultimately you guide yourself to by raising your vibration, because it will, as a raised vibration, no longer be vibrationally compatible with certain substances. And in that sense, you will wean yourself off of certain things in a naturally evolving way.
And once open contact begins in 2023, approximately how long will it take for the Earth to be healed? And will the hybrid children help us bring that to fruition?
Yes, they will. Now, again, remember, you're not changing the version of Earth that you're on. So when you say, how long will it take for the Earth to be healed? The versions of Earth that do not wish to be healed will never be healed. You will simply shift yourself to versions of Earth that are already healing or already healed. That's how you experience that change. But the presence of the hybrid children will be reflective of the fact that you've already shifted to a world that is more in the healing vibration. Otherwise, they wouldn't show up on a version of Earth that wasn't. So in a sense, they're helping you by the fact that they exist on the planet, on the version of Earth that you've shifted to, letting you know as a sign that because you can experience them, you've already shifted to the version of Earth in which it's all right for them to exist. It's not that you've changed the version you used to be on.
Okay, and one person wanted to know if you could share with us in your ancient language a word that represents, well, they gave several words. One is excitement, one is passion, one is act on your excitement, one is transformation, compassion, and God, or all that is. So take your pick.
Well, we've already shared with you the idea of acting on our passion, and that is Shivai. We have also given you the idea of acting out of service, and that is Aveo. The idea of all that is simply O.
Oh.
Yes, O.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other ones that you want to share before we move on?
Ish.
And that means
No.
no?
Yes.
Ish
No.
means
You
no.
asked me if I wish to share any others. I said ish, thereby sharing with you a word at the same time saying no.
Okay. That was great. Let's see. What are the different types of Bigfoot species? Is the Native American creature called Wendigo a similar entity to Sasquatch? Wendigo is said to afflict people with insatiable hunger, sometimes even cannibalism. And what does this presence signify, and how does Sasquatch regard Wendigo?
The Wendigo is an interdimensional being. It's not Sasquatch. In a sense, Sasquatch is aware of the Wendigo, but they also, to some degree, don't have much to do with them. There are different types of Sasquatch. There is the Susquehannock, and different types in different areas of your planet. Those that you call the Yeti are a slightly different type than the idea you recognize as Sasquatch or Bigfoot in your Americas. There are South American versions, there are European versions, there are Asian versions. So there are different varieties and different species of Sasquatch.
At one time, you said that there were beings on this earth, or a being on this earth that is over 1,000 years old. Is this being a human or a different species? And if he or she is a different species, can you elaborate on that?
First, we were referring at that time to those you might refer to as medicine men, medicine women, shamans, and the like. There are a few that are extremely ancient that most people on your planet have no awareness of whatsoever. There are also a few beings on your planet that are not human, that are well over 1,000 years old. We will not discuss them at this time.
Okay. What are gnomes elementals also? What is their function, and are they only present in nature, or can they also be present in our house?
They are elementals. They can be present in your house. They can be present in nature. And the general vibration of gnomes has to do with the delivery of ancient knowledge and stories, although they can do other things. But that's their primary frequency, is to help you get in touch with ancient knowledge through stories. They also are reflective to some degree of the idea of the bonding that exists in a variety of communities. So they are a community-oriented, information-sharing version of an elemental energy.
Can you also explain why redheads are so rare? Redheads with green eyes and freckles only make up 1% to 2% of the population. Did the mutation come from a DNA activation, or are they connected to a specific group of beings?
It came from a DNA mutation to some degree, but that doesn't mean they are not connected to a specific group of beings, because the potential for that DNA activation existed originally in the Anunnaki.
Oh, sorry. See if I have any more questions that I can ask you here. Why are some souls born with a signature vibration that seems offensive to the rest of the people on Earth?
No one is born with a signature vibration that is offensive, but it can seem off-putting based on what they're here to do. If you have a being whose vibration is extremely transparent and raw, it may rub a lot of people the wrong way who, in their belief systems and fear-based ideas, are not willing to look at the pure core of their own vibrations, and they may resent having it, so to speak, rubbed in their faces. So these beings who may come through with a very powerful, pure core vibration may be the beacons for many to use as a marker for when they are clear within themselves, because then they will be able to align with such beings and will not find them threatening or offensive or off-putting. So they can be used as pure markers of the true core frequency that all of you contain. There are exceptions to this, however. It may be that some come through not exhibiting the idea of a core vibration that is representative of their pure core, but an altered form that is designed specifically to ruffle feathers. These are the ones that may help others get in touch with their fear-based beliefs by acting as tricksters and clowns, so to speak, to put them in touch in unusual ways with things they may not have considered and may not enjoy going through, but nevertheless, that's their purpose, is to come through deliberately to upset the apple cart so that people will then put it back together in a new form.
How can we differentiate between not remembering something like ET contact in childhood and not having experienced it at all, at least in a human life?
While there are, again, some exceptions, if you have any interest in asking that question at all, you've probably had contact. And the fact that you're asking an extraterrestrial for an answer to that question is probably a good sign that you've had contact. So look around at the things you're interested in. Look around at the things you make connections to. While it's not always a representation of extraterrestrial contact, it can be a representation simply of the expansion of consciousness and more awareness that there are extraterrestrials without having had direct contact. But generally speaking, our vibration will attract those that have had some form of interaction, generally speaking, probably about 99% of the time.
Okay. And the abduction movie Communion showed a second race of beings working with the Greys that look like little blue trolls.
They're the
Are there
doctors. They're called the doctors. They monitor, they regulate, they keep things moving, they organize, they help.
And if they are the trolls, does that make the Greys the elves?
You can use that analogy if you wish in a very light way, but they're not trolls. They're a different species that is helpers to the entire hybridization agenda, but in a very specific way, as we have already described.
Okay. And then I guess this would be the last one. I watched a documentary called The Fourth Kind about terrifying mass ET abductions in a town called Nome, Alaska. Can you tell us who abducted these people and why did they cause so much suffering? I feel this is important to understand to help eliminate fear.
All right. Well, first of all, they were simply versions of Greys. And the fear, again, is simply because people didn't understand what was happening. Even though they had spiritually volunteered to be part of the hybridization agenda, many people who experience those things have traumatic experiences because they've never been taught what's going on and they don't remember making an agreement to participate in these things. So the more you are willing to take responsibility for your part in the experience, the more you can ask for the experience to happen on your own terms in a way that you feel in control. Because when these things happen and you're not prepared for it, you're not taught that these things are going on your planet, then you don't necessarily react in a way that is outside of the survival mode. It kicks in and you feel like you are dying, you're out of control. But the idea is that you're not really out of control and you are participating in something you agreed to participate in as part of the transformational evolutionary path of Earth into the sixth hybrid race. So you just have to allow yourself to know more about what's going on, to wrap your mind around this idea as something that you chose to participate in voluntarily from another level, and that it's all right for you to experience these things in a way that doesn't have to be scary if you understand what's going on.
Okay. Well, and all of the exercises that you're giving us also help to awaken our memories as well as to acclimate us to the possibility of contact with.
Yes, especially recently when we talked about the idea of placing the cardboard cutout of an ET outside your window and the things that go with that. If you keep practicing this, you will get used to the idea to the point where it will no longer be a fearful experience to encounter extraterrestrials that are involved in the evolutionary transformation of your world at this time. So keep practicing. And we will always again share information with you that helps you elevate your vibration, especially again reminding you to follow the formula, which will always elevate your frequency and make you far more vibrationally compatible to any extraterrestrial that you may encounter in any way, shape, or form, and allow you to see more clearly what's really going on behind the curtain, as you say. We thank you for your willingness to participate in these encounters and interactions with us. And now, please, by all means, relax, get comfortable, let go of the cares of the day, and prepare yourself for the meditation that will allow you to begin to experience the point of view of your oversoul. So enjoy.